Welcome back to RCTogether, friends. Today I have a new rig that we've pulled out of the vault that I want to continue with my 2024 rig rebuild series. Today this is the Axial AX10 Deadbolt. This was a 2.2 rig that Axial released somewhere around 10 to 15 years ago. And this one was one that I never spent a lot of time with because I also got a Wraith, and as you guys have already seen the rebuild video on that one, that was more of my primary 2.2 rig back then. Both myself and my daughter drove this rig some and really enjoyed it, but never did a lot of heavy modifications. When I pulled it out of storage, I popped a battery in. It still had the factory Axial speed controller and receiver. I think I had switched the motor. Originally was, I believe, a 20 turn Axial motor, and I switched that to an Axial 55 turn, which is in it now. Probably ruined the first one, to be honest, driving it through mud or water. But also this, moving this one into more of a crawler, I wanted that 55 turn motor. I think that just works better. Other than that, really the only thing that I noticed that was not factory on it was the servo. And it was not working, but after moving the wheel back and forth a little bit, I was able to get that working. But obviously it needs to be replaced. It's very weak and slow. So that's a little bit about the rig. Let's take a look inside. So in full transparency, when I pulled it out, it did have the original Axial speed controller, BEC, the Axial receiver as well. And this is just to show you guys something we used to do back in the day. We'd plastidip the Axial speed controllers just for a kind of a waterproofing method. It looks kind of silly looking back on it now, but this whole unit I just pulled out immediately when I pulled it out of storage because it was not I didn't have a radio that would function with it, so I wanted to change that out. And it just so happens that I had just pulled out the Firma, and you can't really see the branding on it there, but this is the Firma all-in-one receiver speed controller unit that was in the low-C Nightcrawler, but I wanted to move the Nightcrawler to brushless and use one of the new Fusion SE motors, just because the sound of the motor in the Nightcrawler was horrible. I popped this 40 amp all-in-one Firma receiver in this rig connected to the 55 turn Axial motor that was just in it already, and it just runs like a dream. Now, like I said, this servo is gone. This servo right here, this Solar D772, it works, but it's very slow and unresponsive, so the servo needs to be changed. But my goal for this rig, and I will show you one other thing that I removed from back here, which is just the kind of the receiver box that it comes with that's mounted in the back. But the battery forward design is perfect here, and attaching this back here, the receiver speed controller is nice. Getting the servos swapped out. But the design of this rig is really something interesting. It's kind of like the Wraith without the cage in a way. So they made this frame structure in here, and I really think there was a lot more power behind this design than what Axial realized through the market. I know AX10 has a richer history than just the Deadbolt. This, I guess, perhaps is the last of the AX10 family. Scorpion, Ridgecrest, others, and then maybe something else that I'm not aware of before my time. But my goal with this rig is to keep it as stock as possible. Now obviously the electronics have been replaced. The servo is going to need to be replaced. But when I look around the rest of it and I look at the shocks, these stock axial shocks, I do have some aftermarket rubber on these axial bead locks here. These are plastic bead locks. Love the tires. You know how I like Super Swampers. They just perform so well. But really it is my goal to keep this thing very stock. When I did the test drive with it, just to shake it down a little bit without doing anything other than just putting the Firma in here so I could get it to run and be controlled by my Spectrum receiver, it really impressed me. Now, I did run it without the body, and I did notice that when I pulled it out of storage, these body mounts were up about right here. So this thing is set up really more like a monster truck, up pretty high. And so what I've done is I've brought that down so that the body can sit as low as possible and allow for the weight of the cage in the rear to be as low as possible as well. I thought about different options for the body or doing things, but there's just something nostalgic and classic about that orange Deadbolt body with the skeleton head figurine in there driving. It's just kind of it's some history to our channel as well. So I think that's kind of a cool aspect. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this kind of preview on this rig. Don't think I'll do a ton to it. Shocks are something that I am interested to see how long I actually stay with those shocks. If I do want to keep it as stock as possible, other than the servo and the electronics, the shocks may be something that I'll look at. Of course, everybody's probably wondering too, well, yeah, what about that steering in the front here? You know, these are classically ones that will bend pretty easy. Yeah, it's fine. I mean, if it breaks, I might have to replace it with something, but you know what? Don't mind it at all. Just doing the slow kind of hobby fun crawling that we do here. It's not going to hurt anything. So again, appreciate the time. I hope you guys enjoyed this quick peek at this rig that we'll be working on a little bit, getting it back up and going in shape, and then we'll get a running video of this one soon as well, so you guys can see how it performs out on the rocks. Have a great day, everyone. Okay, one thing that I like to understand when I'm restoring or rebuilding a rig that I haven't driven in a long time is what's the gearing within it. So what I've done is I've just placed some white tape at the bottom center of each wheel on this side, and we're going to give it just some light acceleration to determine if we have overdrive or underdrive or possibly both. Let's see what we find out here. Okay, that was kind of, well, now I'm starting to see the front pull away. Okay. Based off what I'm seeing already, guys, this thing either has underdrive in the rear or overdrive in the front. I don't think it has both, because I think we'd be seeing a bigger difference here on the rotations. But you can clearly see the front wheel spinning faster or the rear wheel is spinning slower. That's the part that I don't know if it's overdrive or underdrive, but you can see this looks like they might actually sync back up on the next rotation. Yep, so this gives us a good idea, and this is a great way, by the way, to tell if your rig has underdrive or overdrive. In this case, it has one or the other. I don't know which, but it doesn't really matter to me, because with this build, I just want to have some form of overdrive. And this appears to have that, and that's going to help us a lot with the technical, slow rock crawling. So I think this is a win.